Hi, I'm Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to do the big fool. We're going to fool a lot of people. We're going to make a low-fat chocolate cake that tastes just as good, if not better, than my fully fatted fudgy chocolate cake. And I know this for a fact. I have research on this. I used to teach college in the culinary department, and I used to teach nutrition, and I used to have a blind cake taste test. And all the students would try a piece of my fully fatted chocolate cake. Then they would try a piece of my light, almost fat-free chocolate cake. And I would say I fooled probably about 75% of them. So if you ever need somebody in your family to watch their fat, this is the recipe for you. It's awesome. First thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I've taken two 9-inch cake layers and I have sprayed them with nonstick cooking spray. I have put parchment circle down on the bottom. I have a great video on how to make a perfect parchment circle if you're interested. Spray it again and flour it, dump the excess out. So this makes two 9-inch cake layers. The next thing I did was I took 1 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder and I whisked it with 2 cups of really, really hot espresso or any type of coffee you want. And you want to make sure that's 2 cups of the coffee. You can use water if you're not a coffee drinker, don't worry about it. Whisk it and then let it cool because we don't want to melt the light butter that we're going to be using. In a bowl, we're going to get our mise en place ready, right? I'm big on mise en place. We're going to get everything in its place before we're ready to go, and then boom, boom, we have our cake batter ready. So this is 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to whisk in my other dry ingredients, 2 teaspoons of baking soda. 2 teaspoons. The reason is baking soda, if you remember, needs an acid to react to form carbon dioxide gas bubbles to help the cake to rise. So cocoa powder, that's acidic. It's naturally acidic, so it's going to react with the baking soda. Then I have 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. That all goes in there and you whisk. You want to make sure that your chemical leaveners, the baking powder and baking soda, are whisked beautifully and homogeneously in with your flour, or else you'll get little holes, and you want a beautiful structure, fine little cake texture in your chocolate cake. All right? So that's our dry ingredients. Next, I have 2 eggs that I cracked in a measuring cup. Always crack them ahead because you don't want any shell. You don't want to crack them directly in your electric mixer. Then I used 1/2 cup of any type of egg substitute you prefer. All right. And then I'm going to add 1 1/2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract right in with the eggs. Then I have 1/2 cup of applesauce. This can be no sugar applesauce if you want to, not add too much sugar. This does have sugar. This recipe does have sugar. I am not happy with all the sugar substitutes out there, although I do work with some of them. So here we get started. In our electric mixing bowl, we have 2 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. And this is my 1 stick of light butter. It doesn't have to be in stick form, but it does have to be a solid. And you want it at room temperature. Any type you want. I have my favorites, but you may develop a favorite yourself. And then you're going to use your paddle attachment. This sounds like the creaming method of mixing, and if you guess that, you would be right. When you cream your sugar in with your butter, and if you recall, we did not add that much butter. We only added 1/2 cup, 1 stick, or 8 tablespoons, same thing. The rest of the butter is the applesauce. The fat replacement is applesauce. So I have replaced 1/2 of my fat from my original recipe with something fat-free. You could use applesauce, you could use mashed banana, you could use prunes, a prune puree, which is hard to say. You could use anything you want. Apple butter, I love applesauce. So you're not going to get it to be light and fluffy, so don't even go for light and fluffy because there's not much butter in it. So this is a takeoff, a modified creaming method, if you will. So once I have that in, I'm going to add my applesauce. Half a cup. This is unsweetened applesauce. All right. And I'm going to get that in there. And I'm just going to stop my mixer and give it a good go around. I like to give everything a little bit of a scrape down because these electric mixers, things do get caught on the sides. All right, so go back to medium speed. And now we're going to add our eggs, typical creaming method, all right? So we've creamed our fat or our fat replacement, wink, wink, with our sugar. Now I'm going to slowly add my eggs. We're going to add one. You see the real egg go in with a little bit of the egg replacement. We're just going to get that incorporated, and then we're going to add the rest with our vanilla. This is such an amazing cake. These students could not believe that this was very low fat. They couldn't believe it. They were amazed by it. And it's so easy. All right, now the alternating, I should say. We like to alternate in the creaming method of mixing with our wet and our dry ingredients. So on low speed, you don't want to do this on high speed. You want to add 1/3 of your dry ingredients. That's your flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. So I add about 1/3 of it. And you will scrape down whenever you feel things are getting on the side. Then I'm going to add half of my cocoa mixture. This is what gives it that chocolatey flavor. It is so amazing. And then you can frost it or not frost it. You do whatever you want to do. You do you. Some people like to frost this. You can even make this in a 9 by 13 inch pan, whatever you would want to do. I love it as a layer cake. All right, I know this is not on. There we go. So now it's time for another 1/3 of our flour. You don't want to overmix once your flour ingredients start going in there, your ingredients with your flour, because that's where the gluten-forming proteins are, and you don't want a tough structure of your cake. And if there's low fat anyway, there's a tendency for it to be a little tougher than a cake with fully fattedness to it. All right, which makes sense, right? Because the fat sort of coats the gluten-forming proteins and prevents them from sort of joining together and making that gluten protein. So we're going to add the rest of this slowly and do this on low speed. Next, to be followed with the remainder of that 1/3 of our flour ingredients. Try to get it in the bowl. So that last bit always is a little hard to do. All right. So I'm going to push this down. And again, this electric mixer, I'm going to just give it one good go around. And then we're done. But I will have to do some mixing with the rubber spatula because the flour gets pushed up on the side and as it will. Just going to leave that there. And I'm going to show you once I get it around. It's a very thin, for the creaming method, it's a very thin batter. All right? It's almost like a one-stage batter in texture. It's sort of thin and pourable, and that's fine. That's from the applesauce. That's from the lighter butter. But you're going to be amazed. It is so good. You will never want to make another low-fat cake. So if you have someone in your family that's sort of trying to watch their pounds, just say, yeah, would you like some chocolate cake? Wink, wink. It'll be our little secret. You're going to pour it into your prepared pan, half and half. I always like to pour a little bit less than half just to make sure I'm getting it. These would make great cupcakes, a 9 by 13 inch pan, rectangular pan. All right, is this even? Can you tell me? I don't know, let's see. If you really want to get it super even, you can measure it or weigh it, but I usually just eyeball it. You want to get all that batter out. This is going to take a while to bake because it is a thinner batter. I usually give it between 40 and 50 minutes. And the cake is done when the sides pull away from the pan. The sides of the cake pull away from the pan. And when you gently press into the middle, the cake will spring back and a knife inserted into the center will come out clean. See you back after 40 to 50 minutes. So my wonderful low-fat chocolate cakes that is going to fool all your friends and family came out of the oven. I let them cool and they're barely warm to the touch. That's the best time to flip them out of the pan. So you want to take a small knife, go around the sides, and you can do whatever you want. You could freeze them now. You could fill them with buttercream or a meringue or ice cream or anything you want, or split one and make 4 layers and split the other one. You could do whatever you want. But now you have a good, basic, low-fat chocolate cake for those of you that are watching your fat. I hope you become a subscriber. I'll see you next time.